Gamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. Oh, peace, peace, peace.
Baby boy would one day walk on water. I'm reading from the life of Swami Vivekananda by his Eastern and Western disciples. This incident is from Atpur, the birthplace of Swami Kripamayananda, whose birthday we are celebrating today. When the Baranagar Mutt was in this initial stage with Tarak, Gopal Senior and Kali as permanent inmates, an event occurred which clinched the determination of the boys to renounce the world. In the middle of December, Baburam, that is Swami Kripamayananda's mother, Matangini Devi, invited the young monks to visit her native village, Atpur, during the Christmas vacation. At first it was decided that only Narendra, Baburam, and one or two more would go. But when the others came to know, they also joined the party. Narendra, Baburam, Sharat, Shashi, Tarak, Kali, Niranjan, Gangadhar and Sharoda boarded the Tarakeshwar train at Howrah station. They had taken musical instruments with them. So as soon as the train moved off, Narendra started singing and the others joined in. They got down at Haripal station and went to Atpur in a carriage. Baburam's mother received them as warmly as though they were her own children. In the calm and quiet of the village, the spiritual fire in the young monks blazed up into a conflagration. Narendra's enthusiasm fanned the flames. The spirit of the master, as it were, spoke and worked through him. He was intensely possessed by the vision of the sannyasi's life and would cry out, "Let man-making be the goal of our lives. Let us make this our only spiritual discipline. Away with vain learning. Let not the glamour of the world captivate our minds even for a moment. Realization of God is the one and only thing in life." That is what Sri Ramakrishna's life represented. We must realize God. Inspired by these thoughts and fired by a oneness of purpose, the young men became aware of a sense of unity, a feeling that they were all linked by some wonderful spiritual power. During their stay at Atpur, they seemed to grow into one body, one mind and one soul. The days passed in sadhana. Ramakrishna was in their minds, his name on their lips. Upon all alike, there seemed to descend a spirit of renunciation, a desire to take the sannyasi's vow, each in the presence of the other. The monastic spirit seemed to be intensified in their hearts, both for their own liberation and for the good of the world. Each disciple saw in his brother disciples a world of spiritual force, and that vision intensified the love among them. This was as it should have been, for the Master Spirit was destined to be perpetuated, not through one or several individual disciples, having disciples of their own, which is what happens usually, but in a definite, organized form. Thus, at Atpur, in still hours, subtle things were happening, knitting the brothers together. It all found expression one night before a huge dhuni, sacred fire in the compound. Overhead was the clear night sky, and all around was quiet. Meditation lasted a long time. When a break was made, Narendra began to tell the story of Jesus, beginning with the mystery of his birth through to his death and resurrection. Through his eloquence, the brother disciples could catch something of the apostolic fervor that had impelled Paul to spread the Christian gospel far and wide in the face of adversities. Narendra charged them to become Christs themselves and so aid in the redemption of the world, to realize God and to deny themselves as Jesus had done. Standing there before the sacred fire, their faces lit up by the flames, the crackling of the wood, the soul-disturbing sound, they took the vows of renunciation before God and one another. The very air was vibrant with their ecstatic fervor. Strangely, the monks discovered afterwards that all this had happened on Christmas Eve. In later years, Swami Shivananda Taraknath, recalling these days, used to say, "As a matter of fact, our resolve to become organized became firm at Kanpur. The master had already made us sannyasis. That attitude was strengthened at Kanpur. After staying there for a week, they returned to Calcutta by way of Tarakeshwar, where they worshipped Shiva, Lord of monks, at the famous temple." Here is it.
Now a short period of meditation. Good morning, friends. Today's subject is Christ and Ramakrishna. We know Christ and Ramakrishna both are incarnations of God. That's what we believe. God, who comes again and again to this world, came as Christ, and same God came as Sri Ramakrishna, though we believe that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an incarnation of God, Krishna, Rama, Buddha, all incarnations of God, but we are discussing these two incarnations today. And there has been very close affinity between these two, and there is so much of similarity between these two lives for Ramakrishna and Jesus. We worship them here on the same altar, Ramakrishna and Jesus as a manifestation of supreme reality, two manifestations of supreme reality. Sri Krishna long back had said that God has to come to this world again and again. Why God has to come? Two conditions why God comes. And three purposes. Why, what does God do after coming? What is the purpose of God's advent? The condition for God's advent as in this world, in any form, is when there is loss of righteousness. People forget what is right for them, what is the best thing to do. They become too worldly. They think that joy is in worldliness. Joy in getting the things of the world. Enjoyment of the world is the goal of life. When the goal of life, priority of life shifts from the right thing to something misplaced to where it is not there, then God has to come and show, hey, you are doing wrong. That is not the way, what you seek in this life. If you seek happiness, if you seek truth, if you seek joy of life, that is not the way that you are seeking. Just want to guide them to the right path. So people forget the right thing to do. Dharmasya glani. The righteousness, the right thing to do is lost, forgotten, deviated. That is dharmasya glani, one condition. And what is another condition? With dharmasya glani, it's not neutral. They have just forgotten what they try to think to do. No, they start doing the wrong thing. They misplace their goal to the wrong places to seek. So it is called adharmasya abhithana. The adharma, unrighteousness, that rises up. And when it is too much, then God has to come to guide the people whom He created. Why this happens? Why God has to come again and again? When God, the most powerful being, omniscient, omnipotent, He comes and He sets right. And why there is no need to come for God again and again? That is how God has created this universe. With time the things changes. Even God's advice is forgotten, then God has to come again. This creation is made by God and it's like a mess. And this mess is also created by Him. Then who will take care of this? Then He has to come, rush here and make the things right and go back. And time also He created. The rule, law of the world He created, that will change in time. Samsarati, samsara, whatever, what always changes is this creation. That's what the very definition of samsara says. Whatever changes, ever flux in flux, ever shifting, that is samsara. That's how it's been created. To make the things right, God has to come. Again it goes wrong, again God has to come. That's why God has to come again and again. So what does happen when God comes? What is the purpose of God coming? In the same verse, Sri Krishna says, three purposes of God's advent. To protect good. Paritranaya sadhunam. Whatever is good thing, good law, good people, good thing, it has to be protected and supported. And that God does by coming. And another purpose is to destroy the evil, the wrongdoing, wrong thoughts, wrong people. That has to be corrected and made the right things should be set in. The third is to establish the righteousness, the right path to be shown. Three purposes of God's advent. When before the first century, we calculate the century from the birth of Jesus Christ. Before the Christ was born, we know how the condition in Israel was. How in the name of religion, the problem is when this corruption or this wrongdoing comes, it pervades everything of the human society. It's family life, work life, other moral life, and also life of religion, that also gets corrupted. When this adharma comes, it is so powerful. And we find the religious places which are meant to support the people, to show them the right path, to make them elevate and make them develop spiritually, those places also become a place of business, a place of selfish interest, a place of worldliness. That is what happened during Jesus Christ. When before the Christ and the law were given for how to live, and God has to come again to reset what they themselves in their previous incarnation had said sometimes, because the time changes from 1st century to 19th century we talk about. So Moses, God's messenger, came and he got some message of God, the 10 Commandments. Jesus came very refined, 1st century, many centuries after Moses. Time had changed, people have become more civilized. New message needs to be given to the people. First, the places of worship had become the places of business. Give this money and sacrifice animals, cut this, and you will gain the things. All that thing were being said in the name of religion. And the sacrifice of the animals, giving the money will absolve you of all your sins and will give you whatever you need in life of your sense enjoyment. That had become like the thing in the temples. Jesus, the God had to come. Very places which are to show the light were showing the wrong light. Then who will save? Then God came. No, I have to go and set the things right. And Jesus comes. And that's why the story of Jesus, how he one day was unable, it became unbearable to him that people were sending money and give money and sacrifice this and you will be redeemed. Like that, he sends all the money changers out of the temple, and you are doing this business in my father's house. He was so upset and so angry on that, and that much he could do. He was still not very grown-up person that time. That was Jesus. It was his father's place, father's house, which was meant to show light to the people, give them the direction to the right place, and it was doing all that. That is one purpose. Another, what had been said to the human civilization when it was earlier, something need to be done more minded. Jesus came and he established a very civil society where people would love each other, where people would go so developed that there will be no enemy. Whoever is the enemy, that also could be love. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love who is the neighbor. Love even your enemy. That was the purpose. Jesus gave the message. Don't hate anyone. Try to conquer the world with love so that no enemy is there. Swami Akhandananda used to say, serve others. Who is other? All is our own selves. So we serve our own self when we serve anyone else. So that is the attitude that Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself, and then he said, love even your enemy. Such type of message is so far ahead of the advanced human society at the time. When Sri Ramakrishna's time, again, life had changed. And what was the problem with Sri Ramakrishna's time? Again, the people had forgotten the purport of religion, that it is for giving the light of emancipation, salvation, God realization. That had been forgotten. One was that. Another, there were many religions developed. There had been quarrel between different religions, all trying to establish and say, my path is the right path. My path alone is the right path. Like that, many religions, Sri Ramakrishna came and said, no, all paths are right. Stick to your own path. Follow that and you will reach the goal. All will reach the goal, following their own paths. So no animosity between the followers of two religions. We are all road travelers taking different courses to the same goal. So friendliness to all, accepting the diversity. How the time had changed from the 1st century to the 19th century. And that's why little different message coming. So, and make the goal, set the goal, not less than realization of God. Making yourself perfect, not just by doing a little thing, but going deeper into the spiritual quest and trying to understand your true self through the path of devotion, through the path of rationality, through the path of service, selfless service, so much emphasized by Sri Ramakrishna, Shiva Jnani Jiva Seva. Still working upon, society has become better. Jesus chose many disciples of his times. Some were fishermen, some were tax collectors, some were simple farmers. Like that, he collected from all people in the society. When Sri Ramakrishna came, he chose the students from the university, learned graduates, learned other very holy, pure souls. And the difference was there because in Jesus' time there were no such universities. So he had to make disciples and guide them to work great works through those very disciples whom he chose, 12 disciples. And they did so much work. And Sri Ramakrishna's time, and he chose all pure souls, learned people, educated young men. And both of them said, inspired and instructed their disciples to spread the message, their message, because their message was not meant for one small time, their message is meant for all the times to come. and Jesus said, go and preach my message. And people went. Peter went and he preached Jesus' message. So Peter had gone to one temple, and one lame man was there, and he asked for some money. And Peter said, I don't have silver or copper pieces, but I say in the name of Jesus, you stand up and start walking. And lo, lame man starts walking. The power of miracle, how from Jesus it was transmitted to Peter. Not Peter's power. It was the power of God that God had said. This is the miracle that we say, the power comes like that. Why Sri Ramakrishna never showed that type of miracle? I read the story that Sri Ramakrishna was told about Jesus' miracles. Sri Ramakrishna says, oh, that's fine, there is similarity. But I cannot do this. I cannot make Lazarus, the dead Lazarus alive again. Why? Jesus had showed many miracles. He could walk on the water. That's the song was beautifully sang. That song said he could bring the dead man alive. He could cure the sick person. That was the time. Glory of God was supposed to be something different from the ordinary people could do. That was the glory of God thought. Otherwise, why would people accept Jesus' message? Jesus is something different than others. He is greater than us. That people should know. And that would come from doing something that ordinary people cannot do. 19th century, advanced society, educated, learned, more rational. No need of showing such type of miracles. Did Sri Ramakrishna show some miracles? Yes, he did. But not just physical miracles. That time was for the 1st century AD. For this century, now this very subtle miracles. Turning a Bhutananda, a village shepherd boy, into a great saint. Girish Ghosh, a debauchee, a drunkard, to a saintly person. Giving up all the things. Very subtly, even without saying, stop drinking. He didn't say that. He didn't even advise not to drink to a person who is always drunk. What miracle is that? Without even saying don't drink, and people stop drinking. Lead a moral life of good conduct. Without saying that, the person starts doing that. Isn't that miracle? Very subtle miracle. It is very subtle miracle. His disciples, Sri Ramakrishna's disciples, were not very that they were learned university graduates, some were just high school. But what a great work they did in this world. Swami, Holy Mother's disciple, Swami Nikhilananda, he was not even grade 10 pass. He was born in a village in East Bengal. And he comes to the US, translates the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, meets President of India, and the President's daughter becomes a helper to him in editing the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Isn't that miracle? Isn't that the power of Holy Mother, power of God that is coming through that Swami Nikhilananda ji? So this is how the power of miracle of Sri Ramakrishna was seen in a very subtle way, very powerful way to change the world. Miracles were there, but it was of two different kinds, because of the need of two different times. Times are different. Human society was different. So that's why they were that way. Sri Ramakrishna chose his disciples. As Jesus chose, he could see the heart of the people. Otherwise, how a fisherman could come and to go to spread the message of Jesus and suffer all the things that is on the way of spreading the new message. It is not easy. People who would not believe him, they would take him to some are very evil. They would behave in a very evil way. Some would ignore him. But they were not undermined those thoughts of the reaction of the people. They went on. Where the path for the spread of the message of Christ, and finally, how Peter had to give up his life in spreading the message. But what Jesus created of these people, simple people, was an indomitable courage to work for the Jesus and his message, even to give up his life. Very loyal and indomitable character that Jesus could infuse in them, that strength, that support, that one ideal, that we would live for Jesus and we would live to spread his message, life-giving message, light-showing message to the whole world. That they could do by sacrificing their own life. It needs a lot of strength. Giving up the joy of prayer and facing the adverse audience, adverse society, they went there. They were not afraid of anything. They could speak the truth in the face of anything. So that was the Jesus disciple. Sri Ramakrishna also chose disciples very carefully. He had many people coming, and Jesus had many people and chose a very few of them to really spread his message. Sri Ramakrishna also chose only 16 of them to become the monks. And as it was read, the uniqueness of the Ramakrishna order is there were so many devotees and disciples of Sri Ramakrishna who could have their own disciples, and it would go in many directions that things could flow. But it became uniflowing, strong organization by forming the monastic organization. And the monastic organization, all monks living together. If there was no sangha, there was no monastery, then what would happen? Each would go separate way and they would have their own disciples. And they were all great personalities. Each monk was great to start an order like Ramakrishna Mission. All direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna were so powerful. But all this good and these great powers were kept together. Can you understand the power that could keep all these great thinkers, spiritual persons, all these powerful beings together, bound by the love of Sri Ramakrishna? That was the love of Sri Ramakrishna, that was the power of Sri Ramakrishna that they kept them together. And of course, prayer of Holy Mother. They should live together. It is not they come here to just to repeat your name and go. They should love together. They should live together. That's what Holy Mother always prayed for, the Ramakrishna Sangha. And Ramakrishna Mission was born. Today is the birthday of Swami Kripamayananda. The name was given by Swami Vivekananda. And while he giving name, he chose the name, some meaning. Some like Adbhutananda, a strange miracle of Sri Ramakrishna. Adbhuta is the miracle. Adbhuta means strange, very extraordinary. What extraordinary? Extraordinary miracle of Sri Ramakrishna that Swami Vivekananda himself said about Adbhutananda. And Premananda, Swami Vivekananda chose name, the one who is full of love. And Sri Ramakrishna himself trained. He was so pure. One day in 1884, Sri Ramakrishna meets his mother, who was already a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, and says, "Can you give me one thing?" She said, "Whatever you want, I will give you." Then Sri Ramakrishna says, "Can you give me your son? There is no one to take my care. There are other disciples. They are all busy in their own spiritual practice. Some are always merged in samadhi, some are going to pilgrimage, all are ready doing that. Who will take my care?" So, there, then Sri Ramakrishna, then Matangini Devi, she said, "Yes, I will, but no one gives son without anything." So there she says, "Then what do you want?" Sri Ramakrishna asked. "I have two conditions to give my son to you. One is, may I have unflinching devotion to God. May I never forget God." That was the first condition. See how devoted she was. Her goal is all set. It is God and God alone and nothing else. And what is second? Second is, may I not die before any of my children. That was the time when there was mortality was quite common. Antibiotics were not found out, and people used to die at a very young age. And that was the prayer, that I should not see the death of any of my children. And Sri Ramakrishna said, "Okay, that is agreed." And that both happened. You can see she was a very devoted person, and all were alive during her lifetime. So I put the notice, put, "Thank you for shutting off the cell phone." I think that notice will be more prominent. And of course, thank you for shutting off now. Anyway, so what we have to do is then Baburam Maharaj came and because Sri Ramakrishna was so pure, Baburam Maharaj was Swami Premananda, his pre-monastic name was Baburam. So it was said that Sri Ramakrishna said he's so pure that his very even bone is pure. He's so pure in heart and body. And only person of that purity could hold Sri Ramakrishna during his samadhi time. So he wanted that. And Baburam lived after that. Baburam Maharaj, Swami Kripamayananda used to be called mother of Belur Math. He later became manager and he started taking care of the devotees who used to visit Belur Math, the monks and brahmacharis, training them in the monastic life, taking care of the monks, the worship of Sri Ramakrishna. He used to worship Sri Ramakrishna. And all that he started taking care. And Swami Vivekananda, when he came and Ramakrishna, they sent to Madras, and to Baburam Maharaj was given the job of worshipping Sri Ramakrishna in the temple. Swami Vivekananda said, I have to give little different varieties. Not only to live for the service, worship of Sri Ramakrishna is equal to service of fellow human being. Shiva Jnani Jiva Shiva. One day she said to Swami Premananda, Baburam, today we are not going to worship. Baburam Maharaj was 2 years senior to Swami Vivekananda. But so loyal to this brother disciple. They all respected brother disciple Swami Vivekananda as their guru. That was the command and personality of Swami Vivekananda. They were brother disciples. They were all disciples and trained by Sri Ramakrishna. Then he said, what I have to do? You have to go to Belur village and find anyone who needs service. Today you are going to bring that and serve that person. He gave up, went to village. And then found one old lady was there, brought her to Belur Math, fed her and served her, and that was his worship that day. Swami Vivekananda's training, Shiva Jnani Jiva Shiva, serving people is equal to worshipping God. That was how Swami Premananda was. And Swami Premananda used to love devotees whoever used to visit Belur Math, because he knew whoever comes to Belur Math is called, invited, inspired by Sri Ramakrishna. Otherwise, why would anyone come to Belur Math that is not very well known like now it is? And they have come to Sri Ramakrishna means they are very special people. That was his idea. And whoever came to Belur Math, he would offer some prasad, he has to give. Sometimes people came in very odd time, when all food was finished and nobody was there. Still, he would, if the cook was not there, he would go and find some food. No food was there, he would cook something and feed them. Once one child came and started crying, we are hungry, we baby. And what to do? Milk was needed. And he found no milk was there in the kitchen. Some milk was left in the temple for offering to Sri Ramakrishna. He said to the Pujari, can you give that milk? Pujari said, but that is for offering to God, to Sri Ramakrishna. I asked, give that to me. The Pujari was a brahmachari, he was not very happy that the devotees are being served so much. Whenever there is this exceptional thing happen, people become upset. Whenever this law is broken, whenever their love is so expanding that it goes beyond the certain rules, people become very upset and they criticize. That happened to Sri Ramakrishna. When he started worshipping Divine Mother with love, not through the rituals, people were all complaining to the owner of the temple, Rani Rasmani. What has become this person? He doesn't perform mantras nicely, he doesn't offer food correctly, sometimes he feeds the cat that comes, Mother, you come in this form, please take. People were all upset and angry. Here was Baburam Maharaj was manager, he couldn't do that, nobody to complain, but he was upset of Thakur's thing also being given to the people. That brahmachari sees people coming, Swami Premananda sees devotees coming. Whoever coming to the temple is the devotee brought by Sri Ramakrishna. Now it has to be taken care of. The manager, he has to manage the thing. Not only the thing of Belur Math, but the people who come, that has to be managed. And after all, he could see the people, the devotees, the monks of the level of Swami Premananda, they could see God in all. For him, that crying child and the Sri Ramakrishna sitting in the temple were no different. And he asked that milk was fed. And evening somebody brought milk for Thakur. He called brahmachari, take this milk. Here you see, Sri Ramakrishna himself arranges the thing. You don't have to worry. That was his love for the devotees. Last moment, he called one Gyan Maharaj, brahmachari, who was looking after his assistant. He said, can you do one thing? May I request last moment? Yes, Maharaj, whatever you say. So he thought that some spiritual instruction, you should remember God always to japam, be in meditation for 1 hour. Something last moment, Swami Kripamayananda Thakur, direct disciple, the chosen disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, whom he said of Ishvara Koti, would say some spiritual instruction like that. And what was the instruction, the last instruction to the brahmachari who will look after the Berun Mutt? Can you serve the devotees that come here? That was his last instruction. If that was his love for the people, and that's the name Swami Kripamayananda is so correct and so apt that he was Swami Kripamayananda. Today is his birthday according to lunar calendar. It's Janma Tithi. So we're very fortunate to have to talk about the love of Christ and on the day when we have Swami Kripamayananda, the love incarnate. Sri Ramakrishna himself had the vision of Christ. I'd like to read it, how Sri Ramakrishna saw. Those who have read, they all know how Sri Ramakrishna. The year was 1874 and Sri Ramakrishna was then 38 years of age. Towards the end of that year, sometime during the month of November, Sri Ramakrishna felt a great urge to learn the truth about Christianity from inside a cave. He began to listen to readings from the Bible by Shambhu Charan Malik, a devotee of his from Calcutta. Becoming intensely fascinated by the life and teachings of Jesus, Sri Ramakrishna longed to gain a vision of God through the Christian path. Scarcely had this desire arisen in his mind when it was fulfilled in a most marvelous way. The event happened at the garden house of Jadunath Malik, which was situated to the south of the Kali temple at the Dakshineshwar. Sri Ramakrishna used to go there now and then for a walk. As Swami Sarvananda narrates in his book Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, Jadunath and his mother had great devotion to the Master. From the time they first had seen him, therefore, even if they were not present in the garden at the time of the Master's walk, there, the officers would open the door of the parlor and ask him to sit and rest there for some time. There were some good pictures hanging on the walls of that room. One of those pictures was that of the child Jesus in his mother's lap. The Master used to say that he sat one day in that parlor and was looking intently at that picture and thinking of the extraordinary life of Jesus. When he felt that the picture came to life, the effulgent rays of light coming out from the bodies of the mother and the child entered into his heart and changed radically all the ideas of his mind. On finding that, all the inborn Hindu impressions disappeared into a secluded corner of his mind, and that different ones arose in it. He tried in various ways to control himself and prayed earnestly to the Divine Mother. What strange changes art thou bringing about in me, Mother? But nothing availed. Rising with a great force, the waves of those impressions completely submerged the Hindu ideas in his mind. His love and devotion to the Devas and Devis, gods and goddesses, vanished, and in their stead, a great faith in and reverence for Jesus and his religion occupied his mind and began to show him Christian padris, priests, offering incense and light before the image of Jesus in the church, and to reveal to him the eagerness of their hearts as is seen in their earnest prayers. The Master came back to the Dakshineshwar temple and remained constantly absorbed in the meditation of those inner happenings. He forgot altogether to go to the temple of the Divine Mother, Kali, and pay obeisance to her. The waves of those ideas had mastery over his mind in that manner for 3 days. At last, when the third day was about to close, the Master saw, while walking under the Panchavati grove of 5 sacred trees, that a marvelous God-man of very fair complexion was coming towards him, looking steadfastly at him. As soon as the Master saw that person, he knew that he was a stranger. He saw that his long eyes had produced a wonderful beauty in his face, and the tip of his nose though a little flat, did not at all impair that beauty. The Master was charmed to see the extraordinary divine expression of that handsome face and wondered who he was. Very soon, the person approached him, Sri Ramakrishna, and from the bottom of the Master's pure heart came out with a ringing sound the words, Jesus, Jesus the Christ, the great yogi, the loving Son of God, one with the Father, who gave his heart's blood and put up with endless torture in order to deliver men from sorrow and misery. Jesus, the God-man, then embraced the Master and disappeared into his body. And the Master entered into ecstasy, lost normal consciousness, and remained identified for some time with omnipresent Brahman with attributes, the Saguna Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna is worshipped in all the temples of the Ramakrishna order. In the West we worship in the picture also on the altar. In the East we may not have picture, but we worship Sri Ramakrishna and Jesus especially on the Christmas Eve. All the temples of Sri Ramakrishna are worshipped to Jesus, because Jesus we consider as an avatara, as Sri Ramakrishna is an avatara. For the devotees and followers of the Ramakrishna order, the love for Jesus and love for Ramakrishna is same. If one love is less, then he or she has not become the true follower of Sri Ramakrishna. So that's how we do. And it's very solemn in Belur also on the Christmas Eve. There is food offering and the arati to Jesus by the candle that they do in the church. And in their own way they offer food and fruits. And the carols are sung and Bible is read. It's just like Christmas Eve that we celebrate here in the West. The very genesis of Ramakrishna order and resolve of monks of the Ramakrishna order to stay together, renounce the world, take formal sannyas to become monk, formally, it came on the eve of Christmas Eve, on this eve of the birth of Jesus Christ, on 24 December 1886. That's how Ramakrishna mission starts. Some people ask, you are Hindu, why do you have to worship Christ? Then we say, Hindus worship all gods. They don't have barrier to you can worship this and you can worship that. Wherever there is the manifestation of the divine, the supreme Brahman, the truth, the omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent being, that we worship as the divine. So we worship God in Jesus, we worship God in Sri Ramakrishna, we worship God in Allah, we worship God in all the forms of God, we worship God wherever God's presence we feel, wherever people worship something as God's manifestation, that's very adorable and respectable for us. We respect all forms of God, we respect all paths to God, we respect all faiths, all religions equally, and they are very sacred, and we believe that all will lead us to the whole humanity to the realization of the truth. In the Gospel, those who have read Gospel, you know that how Yam was so fascinated by seeing the similarity between Sri Ramakrishna and Jesus. We know that life was, there are many similarities. Say to the end, you see, Jesus was crucified, a lot of suffering, pain, people just torturing for nothing, and he had to bear that without speaking a word. And he didn't say, don't do that, why do that? He didn't say anything, he didn't defend himself at all. When they asked, are you the king? He said, yes. And some people criticize, if he is a god, why didn't he protect himself so that he is not a god? He couldn't protect himself, he's God's son. How can that be? God's son, God will come to protect his son. He does not protect him, that's why he is not God. Some people came to that conclusion not to follow Jesus. Lot of suffering. In Sri Ramakrishna's case, lot of suffering. Same like crucifixion, cancer in the throat, unbearable pain, no painkiller, no morphine. And he bore all that with peace and all with serenity. He bore all that. And about passing away, he said, and he said to his disciples, it is Lord who is suffering. If you give me, if you say that I should leave this body, then I can leave this body. See the concern we said about Babura Maharaj of the devotees. See Sri Ramakrishna himself. He is ready to bear the pain if his devotees say, no, you have to live for us. He says, if you say, I could leave this body, it's a lot of pain, it's terrible pain, unbearable pain. Devotees, one day, they said, can you go and ask Divine Mother to cure her sickness? He says, for the sake of this case of flesh and blood and muscle, which do not last forever, I should go and ask for that. Still say, not for you, for us can you ask? He would not do that for himself. Devotees say, for us can you ask the Divine Mother? He went to the Divine Mother and he prayed. Can you imagine how much love for devotees Sri Ramakrishna had? He could, like Sri Krishna promised in the war that he would not wield a weapon. And Bhishma said, I make him wield a weapon. Now, a great devotee of God, and God himself, both have promised of two kinds, opposite promises. Which will stand? Definitely God should stand. God has said, how can the promise be broken? No. Devotees are dearer than God himself to God. Sri Krishna finally takes a wheel on his hand, and that is a weapon. It's not regular formal weapon, but that was weapon he was going to hit. And then Bhishma said, yes, then you got some weapon in some form, wheel of a chariot, and that my promise is kept. Just to keep the promise of Bhishma, his own great admirer and devotee, Sri Krishna almost was ready to break his own promise. That was Sri Ramakrishna. Still he would go to Divine Mother and pray, Mother, if you could keep this little cured, so I could eat something, I could talk about you to the devotees. Then Divine Mother said, aren't you eating through so many mouths? Why you want to eat only through this mouth? Sri Ramakrishna was through the realization. I felt so much ashamed, then I said, why did I ask Mother about that to keep around this body and be able to eat something? That was the love of God for the human beings. That manifested through his disciples, Swami Kripamayananda also. Now let me at the end read from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna, Christ and Incarnation from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Yam says to Sri Ramakrishna, how amazing! A similar thing happened with two women at the times of Jesus. The two were sisters and devoted to Christ, Martha and Mary. Similar thing happened in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We read about Brahmani and her sister. Brahmani was talking, she was overwhelmed with joy by Sri Ramakrishna coming. Sister was arranging food, she complained to Sri Ramakrishna, sister, you are here, who will prepare food for all people gathered here? So a similar thing is Master remembers something in the Bible, the same story. Master eagerly, tell me the story. Yam says, Jesus Christ, like you, went to their house with his devotees. At the sight of him, one of the sisters was filled with ecstatic happiness. It reminds me of a song about Gauranga. My two eyes sank in the sea of Gaura's heavenly beauty and did not come back to me again. Down went my mind as well, forgetting how to swim. The other sister, that was the song. The other sister, all by herself, this is the opinion of one of the sisters, who was so much fixed her mind on Sri Ramakrishna or on Jesus. And Yam remembers the song from Chaitanya's life. The other sister, all by herself, was arranging the food to entertain Jesus. She complained to the Master saying, Lord, please judge for yourself how wrong my sister is. She is sitting in a room and I am doing all these things by myself. Jesus said, your sister is indeed blessed. She has developed the only thing needful in human life, love of God. Master, well, after seeing all this, what do you feel? Yeah, I feel that Christ, Chaitanya Deva, and yourself, all three are one and the same. It is the same person with capital B, same person that has become all these three. Master. Yes, yes, one. It is indeed one. Don't you see that it is He alone who dwells here in this way? As he said this, Sri Ramakrishna pointed with his finger to his own body. You explained clearly the other day how God incarnates Himself on earth. Master. Tell me what I said. You told us to imagine a field extending to the horizon and beyond. It extends without any obstruction, but we cannot see it on account of a wall in front of us. In that wall there is a round hole. Through the hole we see a part of that infinite field. Master. Tell me what that hole is. You are that hole. Through you can be seen everything. The infinite meadow without any end. Sri Ramakrishna was very much pleased. Patting Yam's back, he said, I see you have understood that. That's fine. It is indeed difficult to understand that. One cannot quite grasp how God, perfect Brahman that He is, can dwell in that small body. The Master quoted from a song, no one at all has found out who He is. Like a madman from door to door, He roams. He is God. Like a poor beggar, He roams from door to door. The incarnation of God, Sri Ramakrishna says. People can't understand. You also told us about Jesus, Master. What did I say? You went into Samadhi at the sight of Jesus Christ's picture in Jadu Mallik's garden house. You saw Jesus come down from the picture and merge in your body. Sri Ramakrishna was silent a few moments. Then he said to him, perhaps there is a meaning in what has happened to my throat, referring to the sore in his throat. This has happened lest I should make myself light before all, lest I should go to all sorts of places and sing and dance. Sri Ramakrishna lay down inside the mosquito curtain. Yam fanned him. The Master turned on his side. He told Yam how God incarnates Himself in a human body. He told him further about Yam's spiritual ideal. Master. At the beginning, I too passed through such states that I did not see divine forms. Even now, I don't see them often. Among all the forms God chooses for His Leela, I like best His play as human being. Master. That is enough. And you are seeing me.